Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Monday Mindset Mastery. Today, we are talking to Dr. Jason Bradley. Rachel was unable to make it, and we're going to catch her on another time. So we'll actually get the Bradleys twice, which is great. But we're talking about, a new approach to health. Because if you have been to a doctor recently or had an illness, I think especially I can't speak for other countries, but especially in the US, our healthcare system is broken. You go to the doctor and all they want to do is hand you some pills and tell you to take these. And, surgery is kind of one of the first options as opposed to the last. And Dr. Jason doesn't think it needs to be that way. So, hi, Jason, see you. Oops, all of a sudden I can't hear you, but I could a minute ago.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yes. You've
I,
got one
I
of those
my mic is
microphones
so
that you hit
sensitive.
the button, it turns off.
Yeah, what all I said was, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let me have you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us how you got to where you are today, a little bit about the company you run today and what you guys do.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey for sure. And it all started actually before I got out of my residency. And I actually did my residency. I was going through sports medicine and I love working with athletes. And somewhere along the way, I decided that, just living is an athletic event these days. But that said, I was wandering through the streets at the University of Iowa and I saw this sign that was up. And it basically said, hey, come in here to learn about gastrointestinal testing. I think it was novel biomarkers in gastrointestinal testing. So, labs to look at the gut. And I walked in, and there was this guy in there I'd never heard of before, Dr. David Brady, who actually became a mentor of mine. And I sat in there, and all I thought about was that this guy's either crazy, like completely wacko, or they're not teaching us what we need to do to get people better. And I left there kind of perplexed a little bit. I started investigating, laboratory biomarkers and then this new thing called functional medicine. Now, granted, everyone knows about functional medicine now. To date myself, this was I think about 28 years ago. So, it was many, many years ago, 2.5 decades plus. And I left there and I started, I will say, dabbling in these new functional biomarkers, this new laboratory testing that was available. And I sought some certifications and some postdocs. And lo and behold, I was sort of practicing it and I thought I understood it. And I thought it was, a different approach. And then I got hit with my own health problems. And my health problems were, I mean, they were horrible. I was so tired when I was getting out of bed. I barely could, I had to give myself a pep talk just to get my feet on the floor.
Mm.
I had no energy. I think half my paycheck was going to Starbucks just to fuel myself with coffee through the day. And my health deteriorated and deteriorated until finally I was having heart palps and hypertension, and actually had a couple of near stroke incidents where no one could figure out what was going on, not even my functional medicine colleagues, so my advanced training colleagues. And I literally found out that even with my extensive network, even with all the tools and resources that I had available to me, there was not a clear cut solution, drugs or non-drugs, natural medicines or otherwise, that was going to prevent me from dying early. My family had suffered from, sudden cardiac death. In fact, just last year, I lost both my dad and my slightly older brother to sudden cardiac death.
Mm.
And again, this was some years ago. Um, I uh, I dove in, really applying everything that I had learned from my medical training, from my naturopathic medical training, from my functional medicine training, and I somehow pieced together a plan that I figured out what was going on with me. And it wasn't just one thing. I had a lot of things going on. It was polyautoimmunities, endocrine or hormone disruption, thyroid issues, Hashimoto's, metabolism issues, cardiac, issues, genetic glitches. We call them polymorphisms. But anyway, as I dug deeper and deeper, I started to see a pattern emerging, which was, if we can get to the true root cause, which a lot of that is genetics, and working around our genetic glitches, and then basically, I'll just keep it really simple. Take the bad stuff out. So whatever's not supposed to be there, help my body get rid of it. Put the good stuff in, whatever's missing, whether it's nutrients or hormones, put that stuff back in, and then create balance in my system. I got better. And not only did I get better, but I really achieved a level of vitality that I didn't even know was possible. And then enter in my wife, Rachel, who very similar. I mean, different. Everybody's unique, right? But kind of a similar set of circumstances, medical mystery stuff. And lo and behold, we applied the same kind of methodology to her. And we both found that our autoimmunities went into remission. And then lo and behold, we started applying it to our clients. And over the course of a decade and a half, we started seeing thousands, countless patients, clients achieving autoimmune remission, new levels of vitality, just living life. I would say living a radiant life. And we developed Radiant Health. I mean, we go by Radiant Health. Our official name is Radiant Life, Radiant Health. We think that to have a radiant life, you have to have Radiant Health, so they kind of go hand in
Mhm.
hand. And we moved virtually, and now we help clients from all over the country, even out of the country, dig into their genetics, dig into their internal medicine, and really find out, what their body needs to support their health, and then again, just achieve that radiant life, that vitality that everybody deserves.
Wow. That sounds amazing. So, and one thing that stands out to me is it sounds like, the medicine system, the way it is, treats everybody the same. You have this, we do this. You have this, we do this.
Um,
And we're not, right? Everyone's an individual. And if it works for some person, it may not work for someone else. And,
it's
and
true.
it sounds like that's really what you do is get down to what each individual needs.
It's true. Yeah. I think that you heard me give a presentation at the World Changers event in Fiji recently, where I talked about the N of one. And in research, we talk about an N factor, which is the number of research studies or research subjects in a study. So, we talk about these large studies that have 20,000 or 250,000 people. And we kind of boil it down to, well, the average of everybody is this thing. And the way they teach medicine these days, I mean, I think everyone wants the Marcus Welby MD, that the good bedside man. Nobody knows what that is anymore. Only you
I
and me.
know, I do.
Right. So I'm aging myself, but right. At the same time, people want this person with a good bedside manner that's going to dig in and get to the bottom of it. But the way medicine is taught in medical schools, nurse practitioner schools, even naturopathy schools these days are just drop down menus. You just basically click, what their symptoms are, it pulls a drop down menu with the most probable diagnosis or a diagnostic cluster that puts somebody in a box. Once they're in that box, it's nearly impossible for them to ever get out of that box. It's going to be labeled something like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, which are horrible diagnoses, by the way. Fibromyalgia just means my fibers and my
Muscle
muscles are
pain.
in pain,
Yeah,
and
muscle
chronic
pain.
fatigue. It's like when people go to the doctor and they're like, I've been tired for a long time. And I don't know why. I'm like, you've got chronic fatigue. And they're like, oh,
It's
thank
like,
God, you
right, yeah,
know?
by
And
definition, I do.
yeah, yeah, right. So, I mean, and a lot of diagnoses are like this. And as we all know from watching, the Enbrel and Humira commercials, everything can be boiled down into, one drug, that's going to treat all these things that comes with all these side effects. The problem with modern medicine, at least modern American medicine, is that we are the most expensive, least effective, and most dangerous healthcare on this planet. And we're not even in the top 50 as far as healthy countries go. And yet, our little 5% of the American population consumes over 75, 80%, depending on the statistics that you look at, of all the drugs on the planet. So if drugs were the answer, Lori, we would be the healthiest country on the planet, and we surely are not.
No, I can definitely see that. It's funny too because people, the medical system, like expects you to take drugs. I mean, I'm 62 years old and I don't take anything. And I
You're an
haven't,
anomaly.
I might take, if I get a really bad headache, I might take some Tylenol or Excedrin or something, but that's like once a month. It's funny because when I go, I had to have some minor surgery. And first, when I kept saying I didn't take what medicine, I'm not taking any. And they kept like, are you sure? Nothing. Not, and it's like, no, I don't take anything. And then they made me get a chest x-ray because my heart rate was in the 50s. And I'm like, well, that's because I exercise. Give me 5 minutes, I'll raise it if you want to. It's like, oh, your heart rate's too low. I was like, no, I'm healthy. But it really is like, and I feel like when you go to, my husband was in the hospital about a year ago in the emergency room, and they don't try to figure out what's wrong. They try to make sure you're not dying. And then they send you home because you're not dying anymore.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, it is,
And I think there's a time and a place for that type of care, obviously. I mean, we're really good at medical mysteries. We're really good at taking people that don't fit into a box, that have a cluster. Rachel calls them constellations, I call them clusters. She comes from a German new medicine perspective, but at any rate, a constellation or a cluster of symptoms that don't really fall into one category. And also, our clients typically are looking for non-drug approaches. But I do want to say there is a time and a place for everything. I mean, I think on the flip side, one thing that American medicine does fairly decently is in the ER, we do keep people alive. I always tell people if you're bleeding out or have, a
Right. Yeah.
hypertensive event or, any of these real emergencies, I'm probably not your doctor on the site, but I'll
No.
consult on it for sure. I'm people come to me after the fact of that and say, hey, I don't ever want to go through that again. What can I do to prevent it? And just like you said, modern American medical doctors are not trained at all in preventive care. Um, and even our holistic medical doctors, God bless them all. It's like they tell people to meditate, and take some deep breaths and then still take all these drugs, right? And then somehow they're an alternative medical doctor. And I just think that it can be so much bigger and better than that. And unfortunately, I think the population just doesn't even know what's out there. We've been so conditioned by our commercials and our drug sales and the drug reps at the doctor's office and the doctors themselves. I make friends by calling them glorified Pez dispensers. And thank you for laughing. We have a long way to go, but there's a tribe of us that are out there that want to help people get to the root causes.
So I know there's a lot of things to get to the root cause, and I'm sure our Western way of living, our
Mm.
TV dinners and fast food and sedentary lifestyle, watching TV has doesn't help and has caused a lot of these issues. But would you say the backbone starts with your nutrition? Is it?
Oh, that's great. Thank you for teeing this up for me. All writers hate to talk about the books that they've written, and I'm teasing, of course. I was, very blessed in 2023 to have an international bestseller called The Epic Five Plan, and I outlined I realized after all these years of doing this work, there were five things that I just kept seeing that could be easily fixed. I guess it's what did our friend Jess say? It's simple, but it's not necessarily easy, right? So that could be
Mhm.
simply fixed
Fixed.
with the right information and the right support, right? So here's the five, and I don't know. They're in a particular order because this is the way that we found to kind of roll it out to get success with our clients. But essentially, they were hydration. Make sure you're drinking enough water and make sure it has electrolytes in it. Eat the right foods. What are the right foods? Real foods, whole foods, nothing that's box can, wrap packaged or processed. Move. We used to call it exercise. Nobody likes that word. It's a four-letter word these days. So we call it movement. So there's some minimum movement that we need to do every single day. I used to call the next one stress reduction. Now I call it stress management because I now figured out that we're in America. We're in America. We're all overworked, underpaid, overtaxed, and underslept, right? I mean, so stress is going to continue to go on. But we can manage it. We can learn to regulate our nervous system. And then the fifth pillar is sleep hygiene or, sleep patterning. So we found that when we help people drink enough water, get enough electrolytes, eat the right foods, move enough, work on their nervous system, and then get a good pattern of sleep, going to sleep at the same time, getting up at the same time, having a good a sleep environment, if they did nothing else, and Laura, I want to emphasize this, if they didn't, do all their internal medicine labs that I want them to do or their genetics, they would still get better. Maybe not all the way better, but their health would greatly improve. I think the next level of that, of course, is diving into your genetics, diving into your internal chemistry, so we can break through the glass ceiling. But those five pillars are amazingly simple. They're
Yes. Not
simple,
always easy.
but not necessarily easy. I'm working on a follow-up book to that called The Sixth Pillar, and I wish I would have thought about it and included it, and it's community. We now know
Mm.
that people that are in the right community, a healing community that has the right, I don't know, frequency or tone of the members, their health will elevate as well. So I call that the sixth pillar.
Well, I love that, and you've teed me up. I know I'm interviewing you, but I have to mention, those of you who've been listening know one of the things I do is Done for Your Retreats. Jason and I actually we met on a challenge that led to a retreat in Fiji, so that's where we met. Thinking of your six pillars, a retreat pretty much can give you all of those because one, you definitely get the community,
Yes,
you get the movement. We're active, we get movement. Your diet is taking care of you. We can feed you healthy foods, water, electrolytes. I mean, that's something that's always there. We make that part of a
hmm
retreat. And sleep. Well, if you're so tired and so fun and so had this great event and you're busy all day, you're probably going to sleep well. So
that's right. It's
taking
true.
those times to get away from you and stress, taking those times away from your life definitely reduce the stress. So it seems like um, a retreat. I may start making these retreats as a health a healthy option as opposed to just something enjoyable, because it can, keep you younger, make you take years off your life if you take a week every year or every couple weeks a year and go away and do all those things. So,
Absolutely, and I think there's so much more to it. Like you said, keep you younger. I mean, experiencing new things, besides the dopamine hit of something new, which is always fun. I mean, we
mhm,
have things like BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, that increases when we're traveling, when we're around a group traveling, when we're in new experiences, new environment. And what that BDNF does, it really I wanna say prevents, but I'll at least say, blunts heavily, cognitive decline,
mhm.
Alzheimer's, senility, things like that. So, I mean, yeah, I think combining a group event with a health event is like a mastermind idea.
That's great. Yeah, no, I love the idea, and I think it's a way to jumpstart that every day. So I know, yeah, yeah, I know since I've come back from Fiji, I've been exercising more. I've been eating
Yeah.
better. I'm just kind of this new, I want to feel better. So you work on it. Um, so you talked a little bit about aging, and I know a lot of time people think, we always say aging and even genetics that, oh, well, I'm going to have heart disease because my whole
Mm,
family had heart
yeah.
disease, or, oh, I'm getting older, so I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to be tired. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's what we're taught, right? I mean, thanks mom and dad for the crappy hand. And I don't know which card to play first or last, right? So I was at a conference, a number of years ago with another mentor of mine, Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who really actually came up with the word functional medicine. Just to give you a little lineage and talk to you about how awesome this guy is. Dr. Bland was Linus Pauling's research assistant. Linus Pauling, of
Oh,
course,
wow.
only Nobel Prize winner twice in a row in medicine and philosophy. And he had coined the term orthomolecular medicine. It's a big word. Orthomolecular meaning right molecule medicine. And what Pauling was
Mm,
saying was, Lori, the right molecules for you or the right medicine for you is not necessarily the right molecules for me. And that's where we get into that N factor of one, that each person is unique. Bland said, no one's going to talk about orthomolecular medicine. Let's talk about functional medicine because we're restoring function to the system or function to the body, right? So Bland was talking and he introduced a word to me that I'd never heard of before called epigenetics. And epigenetics, it means on top of the genetics or something directing the genetics. And Sidney Baker, another researcher, said that genetics may be the gun, but it's the environment that pulls the trigger. So let me break that all down again. When we run on the old days, and by I don't know, and even today, most people running genetics, most traditionally trained medical providers looking at genetics, you're cursed. If you have X, Y, and Z gene, you're going to develop Alzheimer's or diabetes or obesity or cardiomyopathies or sudden cardiac death or all these things, MS. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? Autoimmunities. I mean, I can just do a laundry list here. And that's kind of the way that we're taught. But epigenetics suggests something different. Epigenetics says, what can we do to turn on the good genes and turn off the bad genes? And
mhm,
as we started researching that over the last couple of decades, we call these areas that we can intervene at single nucleate um, single nucleotide polymorphisms or SNPs. I call them polymorphisms or glitches, just glitches in the code, the bad genes. And sometimes, a lot of times, those bad genes are turned on by stress, bad food, crappy food,
mhm,
like you said, sedentary lifestyle, dehydration. Again, the stuff that we were talking about, poor sleep. I mean, right now, if you look up the main causes of the inability to lose weight or obesity, sleep comes right up there now. And this is because it's an epigenetic factor. When we start to go in and we manipulate the genes with lifestyle and environmental factors, clean up the toxins in our environment, clean up our air, clean up our water, eat good food, and then also getting into the micro bit of it. I mean, I think from a genetic point of view, a lot of people are familiar with. I won't say the word, but a lot of people call it the mother effer gene, the MTHFR gene, and the MTHFR genes, 40 to 60% of Americans have this glitch where they can't process things right, whether it's hormones, detoxification, energy production, et cetera. A large swath of us. And, they're always trying to develop drugs for this. But here's the cool thing, that particular gene can be turned off. The bad gene can be turned off if we just have enough B vitamins and specifically methylated B vitamins. So, as
mm,
one example, at looking at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pieces of the genetic code, we'll just pick on that one because a lot of people have heard of it. If we just provide the right methylated B12 and B9, little B6, little B3, little B2, I can go down the list here, all the Bs. We can turn off that bad switch and then their body works better. And it's so simple and it's so cheap. I mean, I don't know what the cost of B vitamins are, but a few cents a
It's
day.
not
I mean,
much.
yeah, maybe maxing out 20, 25 cents a day at the most. Um, I mean, we can really change somebody's life. And that's just one glitch or one polymorphism. So when we take that code and we break it down to the, thousands of different, polymorphisms that could come together, we're able to come up with a unique blueprint for each person that we're working with and say, hey, here's your genetic blueprint, but you don't have to be your mom and dad. You don't have to do that. You don't have to, succumb to the genetics of your family. They didn't know any better, but we do know better now.
That's fascinating. So let me ask you, I know a lot of people listening may be thinking like, okay, this is great, yet sounds like it's really complicated. You have to do some genetic testing and figure out what. So first off, if you wanted to get that done, if you wanted to go in and figure out, okay, specific to me, what does that involve? That's the first part of the question, and we'll get to the second part in a minute.
Yeah, so I have a two-part question to your first part of your question. So currently, I think, for us, we work with our clients individually. We have a private practice. It's virtually based. People can come to us and we meet with them and chat with them about what's going on. And what we'll do is usually order genetics. I mean, genetic profiles used to be thousands of dollars. They're like 250 or $300 these days, and you don't have to repeat it. So it's for most, I mean, I know that's not free, but at the same time, it's approachable for a lot of people, and the amount of data that we get is just invaluable. And that's usually just a cheek swab or a saliva collection or something like that. Sometimes hair, it depends on what company we're using. And then we couple that with doing a deep dive into blood work, not just what the routine metabolic panel, blood count, TSH, and lipids. That's what everybody does. We take that times about 500 and dive really deeply into the nutrients. People, do you have enough nutrients? What are all your hormones looking like? What's your metabolism look like? And really diving deeply into those areas. And then we also do a GI analysis, looking at not only the function of the GI. I mean, if we're not digesting our food correctly, we're not going to absorb those nutrients. So, I mean, I could run your blood test and know all the nutrients that you need, quote unquote. But if you're not going to, be able to absorb it,
Right.
it's
No
just
sense
wasted.
putting it back in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just wasted money, right? I mean, you're just gonna be pooping it out, right? So, we look at that, and then also the microbiome. And I, our podcast partner with the Get Better Faster podcast, James Chester. If you don't mind me using a four-letter word here, he says if you give Dr. Jason your, what does he say? Your spit, your shit, your piss, and your hair, he can tell you everything about you that you could ever imagine that you'd need to know, and it's true, right? So from the consumer end, from the client end, really it's just a sample, right? I mean, it's just getting that blood, hair, urine, and fecal matter over to the lab for analysis, and then it's really simple from there. The lab will send an analysis back to the results back to us, to the client, and then we just have a conversation about what it looks like, putting it together for them, like I said, in that unique blueprint, so that they understand exactly what's going on. I always say, working with us, they'll understand exactly what the causes are, exactly what's going on, exactly what to do, exactly how to intervene, exactly how long to do it, and exactly what to retest. That's the first part of the answer. The second
Mhm.
part of the answer is not yet public, but Rachel and I have been working on a project that I might have shared with you in a previous discussion called Be Your Own Doctor. And our goal is to empower every one of our clients that are working with us, and in fact, empower those that are not working with us to have a step by step guide of here's where I am, this is what I need to order, and this is how I can order my labs bypassing a doctor, and then giving those people worksheets and different activities to understand what those labs mean for them, and then even how to intervene from a functional medicine point of view. Our goal is, I mean, I'm not saying that not to work with people like me or to work with your regular doctor, but I want to empower people to not have to rely on the expertise of one person. My goal is what I always tell my clients, I want to train you so well to be your own best doctor, so that when you are having a conversation with some type of provider and you bring up something like MTHFR, again, most people know about that one, but COMT or these other genetic pathways, or talking about your HOMA IR, insulin resistance score, and these other terms that doctors usually don't know. I always tell people, when you get the deer in headlights look, it's time to,
Find a
if
new
you've
doctor.
surpassed, yeah, if you've surpassed the coach that you're working with or the doctor that you're working with, it's time to find the next level up, right? So
Mm.
yeah, that's coming soon. We're actually filming It's like a 6-part series built on another course that we've created already, but we're upping the ante a lot for the public rather than just our clients. We're actually filming the first part of that this month, and then every month we'll be filming the next stages. So we'll probably have that done and out the door by either late winter or early spring next year.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating. And yeah, I can see a lot of people who really want to take charge of their health can learn that because I know people, going to a doctor, just in general, it's a chance to get sick. There's so many germs. So if you can
Right,
avoid that.
right.
um, now I want to go to the second part of my questions. Clearly, if you're suffering, if you really feel miserable, if you're at that point where you don't want to get out of bed every morning, it's
Mm,
worth, no matter what the investment is, it's worth that investment to
it's
do this
true.
testing and to find out. But say occasionally you get indigestion or you're okay. These things like B vitamins, nutrition, will they, I mean, is there any risk to just starting to take, should everyone be taking B vitamins?
Oh
Are
boy.
there,
That's a loaded question, right? I mean, the one thing I can say is there are absolutely no absolutisms, right? I'm teasing about that because that's an absolutism in itself. But yeah, I don't know there's a proper answer for everyone, but I would say that relatively speaking, most nutritional supplements, vitamins, and let me be careful about this, vitamins and minerals, and I'm waxing poetic and big picture here. Vitamins and minerals are natural things. They're found in our foods. In fact, when we think about what our body's made out of, our bodies are only made out of 6 things: proteins, fats, complex starches, water, vitamins, and minerals. And that's it. That's the entirety of it. So our
mm,
hair, our big toe cells, our hormones, our blood cells, everything, our immune cells, everything is made out of those 6 things. If we have a deficiency in any one of those 6 things, we're going to have a problem. Most people, excuse me, most people are not over in my experience. I have some exceptions to this. Most people are not over supplementing with vitamins and minerals. I will say, however, there are some genetic conditions like familial hemochromatosis, where people have a genetic issue breaking down iron. So I'm really leery about saying things like everybody should take iron.
right.
Calcium. If it's not taken in the right way with the right cofactors and co-nutrients, can wind up in our arteries and cause hardening of the arteries. We find that especially in postmenopausal women. So, I mean, there are. I don't think that we can say carte blanche, but generally speaking, vitamins and minerals are safe for most people. I would not say the same thing for herbal supplements or bioidentical hormones or glandular hormones or this or that. Those have a time and a place as well. But in the spectrum of like, here's food, here's nutrients. When we start to get into like herbal supplements and bioidentical hormones, we're getting really close to drugs at that point. Yeah.
Gotcha. So it sounds like start with water and
Yeah.
electrolytes. Very simple.
Eat real
Natural
food.
water with electrolytes, not Gatorade, too much sugar, not these drinks that are
Right.
full of sugar, but natural. Eat a
Right.
healthy diet with means natural foods in their natural state.
Yep.
Um, a balance, not all carbs, not all. So
Yep.
move every day. It could be as simple as walking, standing
Amen.
up,
Yes.
anything. Sitting here kicking your feet around, movement.
I'm
Um,
standing right now just to let everybody know. So
yeah,
I have
I'm
a,
sitting at the moment, but I have a stand-up desk, so I did.
yeah.
I was standing earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just moving around and then sleep and stress, and if you do
Yeah.
those other things, your stress might just naturally go down because you're feeling better. You're eating healthier.
Sure.
You have more energy. So this,
Well, and what we're even finding, even with the idea of stress, anxiety, depression, I mean, I know that you know this, so I'm preaching to the choir here, but for the audience, I mean, a lot of that is genetically driven, right? A lot of that can be due to these polymorphisms that we can actually discover and identify and intervene in a very simplistic way. Again, I don't want to just throw B vitamins at it, but it could be something that simple, or vitamin D or vitamin C. We can do neurotransmitter testing these days. I'm always amazed when people have stress, anxiety, depression, and they go to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, recommends, whatever drug they feel is
yeah,
appropriate. And
and
I
then they
always
just keep
say,
switching.
and they
That
just
one
keep
doesn't
switching.
work. Let's try another
Yeah,
one.
or they stack them, right? They're switching and stacking, right? And at any rate, we can run neurotransmitter tests and find out exactly which neurotransmitters are high and low. And then those tests will generally tell you the biochemical pathway if you've forgotten it from medical training. And those biochemical pathways are basically nutrient pathways. So we can really discover, like, oh, if I want to push this, I could add a little vitamin C. If I want to push this, I could add some magnesium. We can get hyper specific with functional psychiatry. I had I had a friend of mine named Marty at one of the local psychiatric, clinics here. We were having lunch one day, and he said, I'm sharing a lot of patients, and your patients love you, and they seem to get good outcomes. But I don't. He's what he said. I don't think I can refer people to you because I don't know that what you do is scientific. And I said, Marty, wait a minute. Everything I do is every recommendation I make is based on objective, reproducible laboratory testing. Everything, right? That we can follow up on and we can measure. Is it working or not working? Not to mention just their subjective symptoms. I said, people come to you and they try to interpret what they think is wrong through their filter. You, with your bias and filter, interpret that into your head, and then you guess at a drug that might work. I'm like, I'm not sure how that's scientific. And he sat there. He said, I think you might be onto something. And I mean, I'm again, time and a place for everything, but I'm a big fan of functional testing for really, if you're gonna, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, 26 years and a few days of clinical practice and another, however many years of training before that, right? If you're gonna put something in your body, I would get something tested to make sure that you need it, and then get some follow-up testing to make sure it's working and not throwing things off in the wrong way.
Mm, great point. Well, I could talk to you forever because I think this is fascinating. And I hope those listening, I know, Mom, I hope you're listening. I know you usually watch this one, and I think there's some good advice here for you if you're listening. But for those who are listening, I think this is great advice. So, Jason, if someone wants to reach out to you, maybe find out what they should get tested, talk to you, how do
Yeah.
they reach you?
Yeah, really simply. Our clinic is called Radiant Life radianthealth.com. So again, I'll say that again. It's Radiant Life, all one word shoved together, radiant health one word.com. If they go there, they're going to learn more about us. I think there's some videos for them to watch. There's a way for them to contact us directly through that website. And if they want to bypass the website, they can literally send it an email to info@radiantlife-radianthealth.com. And we're happy to help people out.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'll put that, I'll try to put that in in the comments on the different platforms, but radiantlife-radianthealth.com. No spaces in there anywhere.
Right, right.
Great. And okay, so I like to end every call with if you had just one tip, one piece of advice you would give to the audience, what would it be?
Yeah, I used to speak a lot more publicly. I spend my time behind screens these days and doing public talks, behind screens. But when I was out in the public, I would say this all the time that I don't care what you've been told. I do care about how you feel, but I don't, it doesn't matter what your symptoms are. If you can hear my voice, there is still hope and there is still help available. Don't give up. I promise you, there's a solution. Just don't give up and don't give in to the idea that drugs and surgeries and whatnot are the only solutions. It's a big world. There's a lot out there, and like I said, there's hope and help.
I love that. And, because of my book is the reinvention mindset, and one of the things I tell you is you can reinvent yourself at any time. You don't have to wait till you're a certain age or this
That's right.
happens. You can do it. You can reinvent yourself at 4 a.m. and then you can reinvent yourself again at 7 a.m. So if your
That's
health
right.
is an issue, you can reinvent that too. You can look at your health. Don't I love that advice that there's always something you can do to improve it. You're not stuck. And I know people, one of my close friends who's in my book, Dominique, she had MS and she had 29 of the 30 symptoms, and the doctors told her this would be your life. She's now one of the most vibrant people I
That's
know.
awesome.
She's got more energy than anyone, and she did this all by, you know, turning to when she knew and trying everything and figuring out and nutrition and stress release and all of that helped, cure her disease. I know people
Absolutely.
who had cancer and they were told that, it was terminal cancer, and 10 years later they're still alive and they're cancer free. So I'm not saying you
Yeah.
can cure everything, but there's always something that you can do to improve
I'll
yourself.
I'll comment on that real quickly though. I will say that their only real cure is within yourself. There's no doctor, including myself. Nobody's going to cure you. Ultimately, we just got to give your body the best fighting chance that it has. And like I said, coming back to what we talked about earlier, get rid of the bad stuff. Change the environment, change what's inside that's bad. Put in the good stuff that gives your body what it needs to just function the right way. Create balance, and then do those 5 pillars. Hydration, diet, movement, stress management, and sleep. I will say quickly that my book's on Amazon, and if you're a Kindle, what is it, Kindle Unlimited, Kindle Plus,
Mhm.
whatever that is, it's free.
Right.
So, I mean, if you have that membership with whatever that is, Amazon Kindle. It's a free download for you. So, I mean, it doesn't even cost you anything to get that book. Just go
Right.
download it.
And it's called The Five Pillars?
The Epic Five, the Epic
The
Five
Epic
plan.
Five. The Epic Five
Yeah.
plan. So look for that on. I know I have it. I just don't remember. I read it. I have it. I read it. I just don't remember what it was called.
It's
So it is a
brilliant.
great book. Yes, no, it's definitely has some great information.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, Jason. This has been fascinating. I hope everyone listening will enjoy it. And the recording will be there. You'll probably want to go back and listen again and again because there's so much good information there.
Thanks,
Next
Lori.
week, thank you. Next week, I'm actually going to be doing this Monday Mindset Mastery on Wednesday due to some scheduling conflicts. And my guest will be another wonderful person that was in Fiji with us, Sarah Jafar Hernandez.
Oh, yeah.
And she's going to be talking about the power of breath because we talk about stress and regulating your nervous system, and breath is definitely one of those things that can help regulate that nervous. So you put that together with your nutrition, and we'll have a lot more
And
coming.
she's the bomb. I mean, she's the best too. I mean, Sarah's so wonderful, and her somatic breath work is just brilliant. She's brilliant.
Yes. So, all right. Well, we will see you next Wednesday. I think it's at 11 a.m. Central Time, but it'll be on. You'll get the email. It'll be on the programs. And thank you again, Jason. This has been great. And everyone out there, have an amazing day. Go out there and be extraordinary. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, everybody.